For this video, I asked 5 of Bingo's greatest ever players to rank each other in specific categories. This was originally going to be a standalone video, but everyone had so much to say that I opted instead to cut it into 2 parts. With that being said, I hope you enjoy, with the first category being who has the best composure.
Okay, first up we have best composure. Here I have JJ first, mostly for his showings in any percent. Like during his any percent grinds, he usually clutches up when it matters and is able to get the time he wants, like really fast. Sometimes within just like weeks of starting. So it's kind of insane. And I mean, in being a tournament, he's also showed up pretty well. Doesn't do any major gameplay mistakes like almost ever, and yeah, not really a joker. Of can't really remember at least any jokes that he's had. Yeah, I guess maybe some shooting if you look at like the game twos of the finals we've had, but might just be a special matchup thing because of the bad win rate there. And second up would be myself. And I I think for me it's kind of a reverse of a JJ where like in any percent I'm a choker and need a lot of time to get the times I want and maybe don't even get them. But then during bingo I think there I'm pretty good at clutching up and showing up when it matters most, and he also pretty tilt proof. So I think I have that over most people on this list. And in third place, I have Dex, and I don't have the most information on him in this category or any of them really, but I would say that I haven't really seen that many bad showings in terms of composure or like him choking a lot. So just for that, I think you make a third place on this list of 5 people, since we have some more suspect ones lower on the list. But I think for Rex also just making top 4 in the latest tournament, even if the eye test or the routing maybe didn't always really showcase that he was maybe top 4 level, at least in my opinion. So I think the composure being something he's good at could maybe be a factor that makes up for that. And in fourth place, I have Jeff. I think in terms of being clutch, I think he's definitely, I would say, decent. Where like I don't think he has like meltdowns that commonly. I think it's more so just like very specific moments where he kind of falls apart like that Biengo for turbo incident at the end of that one match, which was kind of funny because that match was like already won, but I guess maybe it wasn't from his point of view. But yeah, that and then like in our series, he did have a few major mistakes, and also maybe wasn't his best routing in the later games of the series. So like yeah, maybe not the best composure, but also I think that just had the most pressure coming into the tourney because of how much he prepared. Since that's always gonna make you care more when you invested a lot. But yeah, I think fourth place is pretty fair. If this was more about like mentality and included the negativity, then he would maybe be last. But just in terms of showing up when it matters, I think he still does generally pretty well, and he does have a lot of those tournaments to show for it. But yeah, not always not always the most sure pick, but definitely decent enough for fourth place. And in last place we have Larvitar. I think this is kind of a clear one since it's easily his worst category of the five that we have here, and definitely the big reason that he doesn't have that many good placements in tourneys, even though I think a lot of people who know about good being routing know that Larvi is definitely one of the best. But yeah, the composure is uh, has always been something that's been holding him back. I guess like in the earlier days, uh, some people, or probably not many people, but maybe someone here might still remember the Larvi versus Mike matches. Those were kind of legendary just for being a competition on who can throw more, and it was always a close fight. So yeah, I think that's just like the opposite of having good composer. And even during like season two, which was his peak, he still had quite a bit of choking issues. Like even in the semi-final series against myself, which is probably like his most important series. Even in that, I think the game two kind of came down to him like dying to Piantissimo in Piano 2, and yeah, I feel like that's just kind of shows a lack of composure, which is yeah, it's unfortunate since yeah, that could have been like a really good series for him to show show what he can do. So yeah, I think composer is just kind of an unfortunate one for Larvitar.
I guess we can start off with the best composure in matches. I think if I had to rank these, I would probably rank I don't want to say myself at 5, but I might put Dex at 5. Mostly because I haven't seen Dex a lot, and the games I played against him, when I took goals away from him, he was very stunned a lot of the time. When it was like a goal they wasn't expecting, in both of the matches, that's what ended up happening. So that's just from my experience on that. So I'll put him at 5. I put Jeff at 4. I think the times that I would play Jeff in the past and what I've seen from Jeff, just holding composure, is he's good at always like having plans, which we'll go further into. But if gameplay wise, if something goes wrong, that's where he doesn't do amazing. And I feel bad talking shit about people. It's not what I want to do. But like the thing that comes to mind, like right now, when I think of Jeff, I think of like the Turbo incident, and he knows it as well. But stuff like that, where it's like composure, where it's in a very close situation, you need to not mess up your gameplay. I don't think Jeff has that. At 3, I'm gonna put Larvi. I haven't played against Larvi in a really, really long time, but the games I played against him in the past, he was very consistent. He didn't seem to get shaken up a lot by it, like really at all. In terms of whenever I made plays against him, he's definitely more of focused on like the analytical side compared to his matches. I would have to watch some of his past matches to see, but I would probably give 3 to Larvi. 2, I would put myself. There are times in terms of composure where like I might be stunned or I might be stuck doing something, which like that lowers my score. But I think it raises my score in terms of like whenever the pressure was on, I never made gameplay mistakes. That was like the biggest thing of like if I needed to do something, I wouldn't mess it up. If it comes down to me having to do a Rico IW, I'm not messing up my Rico IW. Like it's not gonna happen. If I have to do 100 and lock in during 100, I'm not gonna mess it up. Maybe a few years ago I would have, but I've practiced a lot. And speed definitely helps with my composure. So even if I'm like stuck running around Delfino for like 20 seconds, I'll make it up 30 plus seconds in the 100 coin. And then number 1 would be Ramato. Just off of my own experience against Ramato, he doesn't make... He's never scared of anything that I go for. When I would go for my crazy plays back then, he was never scared of it. His composure was like kind of iffy on game 1 of grand finals, but game 2, like I went for a pretty cool play, but he just didn't care for it. He just did his own thing, and I think that's what composure really entails, is like not being scared of what the opponent is doing, and Ramato does that the best.
So first category would be best composure. So I wrote these all down beforehand, so I'm gonna kind of just spitball my thoughts. Number 1, I'm just gonna put Ramato. Obviously, Ramato, like best bingo player, blah blah blah. You know, everything that's needed to be said has been said about him. But he's just very like I don't want to say unbreakable, but I can't really remember off the top of my head a time he's made a mistake, like a serious like mistake that isn't just like a routing misread or something like that. Even when he's like losing, which does happen sometimes, I think he still plays like pretty well. Like I don't think I've ever seen him like, die after like a click happened or something. So for that, I'm just gonna give him number 1. And obviously, like winning so many tournaments, I think you do need to be composed a little bit. Number 2, I'm gonna put JJ SRL. I base this mostly off of I think it was Tomato, where Tomato just did this like crack route. Sorry, Tomato. I mean, it's not really an insult, but it's like, it's kind of how I would describe it. Like this just like insane like kind of route where he did like 300s to start the match or something. And JJ actually like immediately pivoted and knew how to like play around it. I still think there were ways Tomato could have like punished it, but that's basically what I'm gonna go. And that's basically like kind of my memory of JJ is like, I think he's very adaptable. Being good at the game, definitely helps with that. So that's kind of what I would put that as, because it's just usually my memory of his matches. Number 3, I put myself. This probably could be debated. I'm sure the other players did not put me this high, but I would put myself here because I think there are instances where I don't have the best composure, but I think at least in the past tournament, with like a few exceptions, I feel like I am able to not get, even when I'm like stressed and nervous and choking, like I feel like I'm mostly able to just stay calm. Like there's definitely a few times where I did not meet that quality, but that's okay. And I'm number 3 for a reason. I'm not putting myself number 1. I think when I'm having a good match, I think I'm very composed, and even when I'm like super nervous, like I think that comes from playing like a bunch of like non-lockouts and just playing the game a lot. Like I feel like I'm pretty consistent. Like I feel like it's pretty rare that I'll like die for like 5 minutes or something like that. So whatever, maybe a hot take, I don't know. Number 4, I'm gonna put Larvae. I'm sure this is very spicy. The reason I do this, I have a lot of respect for Larvae as a player, but I do think mostly his gameplay can waver, whether he's like ahead or behind. I don't even know if it's like really composure. It might just be inconsistency, because I don't know if he gets that nervous. I think he gets like a little nervous, but like it's not always tied to him being nervous. Like he's been like, ahead and just like loses a lot of time to something, or just like, he's won against Ramato before making like 5 huge mistakes in a match. So it's like I do kind of remember like his last few matches, especially if we're gonna tie stuff in like 2v2, which probably shouldn't count, but whatever. I just feel like he just makes more mistakes on average than other people. I feel kind of bad putting him here. I'm sure this is controversial, but whatever. Unfortunately, I'm gonna have to put Dex at number 5. I'm a huge Dex fan, but I do think like out of the 5 players here, he is the lowest ranked, so I feel like he's going to be lower ranked on a lot of these, so I'm sorry, Dex. It's not personal. I'm a huge Dex fan. I do think Dex deserves more respect than he gets in the overall bingo community, so But that being said, yeah, number 5. I just have to do this based off of like I do think he's more inconsistent than Larby. I think he's kind of a jack of all trades. Like he knows a lot of like cool tricks, but in terms of like landing them, it doesn't always work out, which is fair. You know, stuff like Plant Lorian. You know, it's kind of hard to pull off in a bingo. I feel like once Dix like starts losing in a match, I do think it's kind of tough for him to recover sometimes. I think is kind of why I'm saying this. Or just decisions like made, like I know he over delayed like the first goal in Invasion, which I'm sure he feels bad about, so I feel bad, you know, bringing that up again, but it does matter, I think is what I'm trying to get at. And I've just seen too many matches where I think it feels like a landslide where one thing goes wrong and it just like continues to go wrong, you know?
Ranking these players with the best composure, I thought of this as kind of like confidence. So number 1, it's got to be Ramato. He has won so many tournaments and he always comes back. Whenever he comes back, he's like, oh yeah, I'm the GOAT. I'm not washed. I'm not bad. I'm going to show up. I'm going to win this tournament. That's Ramato. Number 2 is going to be me. That's because I have a lot of confidence in my play. I might make a lot of dumb decisions, but I will make more dumb decisions in the future because I think they're awesome. Number 2, Larvy. Number 3, Larvy. I thought the next couple were pretty close. Both of these are top players. They both have top player composure. I feel like there aren't a lot of top players that separate themselves based on this, but I picked Larvy because he's always got a lot of backup plans. That makes number 4 JJ, you know, solid top player. And last but not least, Jeff. Jeff's probably going to be on the lowest on a lot of these, but really, he's not that bad. He just likes to make silly comments and scrims, and sometimes that makes him, you know, sometimes he goes a little crazy.
All right. For the first category, composure, I have myself as last. And this is not supposed to be like me being humble. This is more about me being very nervous at the beginning of like each official game until like clicks came through and like I have information on my opponent and like I have a good idea of what they are doing. Then it typically goes fine. But before that, like I'm nervous and I'm playing very nervously. Like it's visible. The upper malice that I have is that like for each elimination in the bingo leagues, I don't have like a good track record. In season 1 against Paper, game 3 was a roll control game where I wasn't sure about the card and I had decided on a 9 goal route because it was roll control. And one of the, 2 of the lines had like decent backups, but one of them didn't. And one of them had Jada hundreds as a goal. And a more composed player would have probably been able to find a better timing than doing it way too early like I did, being nervous about like losing that goal and losing the game. So I did it too early and lost the game as a result. Season 2 against Ramato, game 2 in particular, I did boxing timer glitch and that was way too, like I played it way too passively. And I lost a lot of time going for that because I didn't want to miss and lose a lot of time that way. So the passivity just was too much of a time waster. And if I just like had the balls to just go like more fast, I would have won that game, for instance. And season 5, for instance, Embouchure. I think of Embouchure as like a cheeser. Well, not necessarily a cheeser, but like very arbitrary play. More bad than good, arbitrary. And I played accordingly, where like I tried to anticipate the arbitration, the cheese sort of way. And he ended up playing a very standard game, and he can, like, he's not a terrible bad player, he can play standard games. And like I didn't find my footing in season 5 finals as a result, and lost because his stupidness of play got into my head as a result. Like, yeah. For number 4,
I have Jeff, and I expect him to be like last in everyone's list, and that's like very reasonable when you hear him like actually talk. Like he's very pessimistic. He's very he speaks very panically, as like he can be up to 10-3 and be like, "Oh my god, this game is over. Like my opponent is going to like is probably advantage to this, and this, and like is winning everything." And that sounds like very much of like a bad composure. And he did have like some like very like nervous signs, like in one of the, I think season 2, season 3 or something. He had like a game where he like pressed the Z button multiple times out of nerves by accident, which was like very weird, because like how do you accidentally press the Z button? And he had like the Dawn of the Dynasty incident where like he Z-menued most likely before the click, unless like on the layout the board had like 5 seconds delay. He pressed before like clicking a shine. Romano got the goal, and then he like later tries to gaslight everyone that like he actually pressed the Z button after the goal was clicked, even though on the stream it was literally the Z button was pressed before the click even came through. I'm still on that, yes. But like if you actually look at everything else, his like nerves don't really manifest in gameplay. Like his gameplay is like not like gibbery and all that junk. He's not like a choker either. For number 3, I do have JJ. JJ's game plan, or like game play style, used to be like very volatile and very like arbitrary as well. You know, like the butterfly 30 minutes in, the like only having 3 fruit leaves clicked at like 35 minutes and nothing else, or like the pinner rush route on a card, but like it's not that amazing. To pull off like these city routes that like are objectively not as good, you kind of need to have like a Nerves of Steel and like a kind of a poker face, or well, a poker card more like. And the fact that JJ is pulling that off should actually indicate him being like, you know, top 2, like top 1 maybe. But the reason why I'm putting him third is because like in a tournament style, I feel like he's very much of a momentum-based player, where like this particular shows in like his games against Romano, where like game 1 is typically very close and he loses, and then game 2 is a complete stomp. And that's like very consistent with Romano. I think like this happened, like this momentum style has happened in other games, like maybe against Samu and against Shah Mario, like in semifinals respectively in season 1 and 2. I feel like this is like a general trend where like his composure isn't like in the singular, not shown in the singular games, but like more for a tournament style one. For the second place, I have Romano, and that is he's typically very cocky, very like confident in himself. Like when he loses, like his floor is very high. When he loses, it's not really because of him choking something or like him like having a disaster class. It's typically like him having just a too weak of a route. Like it's nothing like egregious, but like it's just weak. So it's not like a choking problem for him. And the only real thing that like could be chalked up to nerves or like bad composure or whatever is that I think his late game is sometimes very, very weird or like very shaky, where like the decisions he goes for are like definitely not, you know, like the strongest. The thing that comes to mind is his game 1 against me in season 2 playoffs in semis, where he had a good lead, or like a game board lead, but like it was still very close, and because he went for like 6 hidden when like he could have had like a very much better play, like a setup play where he would go more for like a Pianta hidden / 6 hidden kind of thing. Meanwhile, I had to like be far more aggressive, and it came down to like me overdelaying a goal because I felt like I had to, because I thought I was in a much worse position than I actually was. And I think like this is like one specific instance where like I think Ramado's late game end game decision wasn't great. And I feel like this is like something that's like maybe his biggest weakness almost. Like his like him closing out games is sometimes a bit shaky, and maybe that might be too nervous. It could also just be like, not just like simply not being something that he's good at, and that's why he's not excelling at that. For number 1, as a result, I have Dex, and that's more because he's like very nonchalant and very like. For Dawn of a Dynasty, he went like 0-10 in scrims against like players like Jakku when he wasn't even good, and like other not amazing players. And had like a terrible record, and like then after going 0-10, he's like, guys, I need a little bit of advice because I feel like it's not going too well with my scrim record, and like I feel like in like post game discussions, he's like sometimes like, yeah, that actually ruined me the game. Interesting. And like I feel like you being that nonchalant about like losing or being in a terrible form, I think is generally good composure. And like, I'm sorry, Dex, you will not rank in like the top of categories for like most of them. So like, I'm more compelled to give you the first place for this one.
For the second category, who has the best routing and card analysis?
Best game plan / card analysis. So number 1, I'm going to put Ramato. I kind of made like a tier list the other day, or the other month, where I was trying to rank like the players, and I put Ramato as number 1, and I said he, wasn't that innovative, which is wrong, and I'm sure he's mad at me for it still, but the reason I say that is not because he wasn't innovative. It's because he was innovative in the sense that he invented the game plans that you see today. He kind of invented the blues into like, Pinna sort of route. He invented like the, Delfino Rush with a few Gelato Shines and Bluebirds into Pinna sort of route. So he is the most innovative in that sense. And I think because of that, I rank him very high in this. Card analysis, I think I don't want to say always, because I think he's had a few misreads, but like, I think his card analysis is always like very strong. It's kind of weird actually. Game plan and card analysis are in the same thing. I feel like those are almost like different things. But yeah, I would say Ramato wins this just based off the fact that he invented the best routes that you see that people still do today. Number 2, I'm going to put JJ. He is very, very crafty with his game plans. The only reason I wouldn't put him above Ramato is because even if he has like these unique game plan ideas, they don't really always work out. I've seen multiple times where they just like get outright punished, and it's hard to put that above Ramato when it's like Ramato's, I feel like, have a higher success rate, honestly. JJ, of course, though, like has come up with some of the most crazy bingo routes, like the butterfly route, obviously, I feel like it's weird to say these things in a video because I don't know how many people are going to have context for it, but basically he rushed, butterfly once on a card. He's done like deep IWs of worlds like before just to start. He always has like a clear idea of what he's going to do on a card. The only reason I don't put him at number 1 is because it doesn't always work. Larvae, I'm going to put in number 3. It's a little tough to rank like the bottom of this. I feel like Larvae's always had pretty good ideas on a card. I do think sometimes it gets a little too muddy. Like I remember Larvae versus Ramato, and they played an Invasion in season 2 in their finals, or in their quarterfinals or whatever, but there was just like sometimes Larvae's plans just don't make sense to me, or if they do, like they make sense, but I don't think they always like work. But he still comes up with like really solid game plans. His card analysis is extremely strong. He's just a very smart guy. I think that plays a lot into it. I think he's like a math guy, but just in general, I think he's very smart, and I think he has like a very clear read. Like he's always like, you know, even if he's not playing, he's always analyzing and like coming up with like unique ideas and just saying like different approaches to routes that most people don't always see. So, you know, big Larvy fan when it comes to stuff like this. Feel like I'm not. Larvy's like the toughest player for me to rank because my memory is like kind of dog water, and season 2 was 5 years ago. So, I'm kind of trying to. I did watch a few of his matches back recently, but yeah. Number 4, I put myself. I don't think my game plans are always that crazy. I think I tend to lean towards stuff that I know is like kind of tried and true. Tried and true. I don't know if that's the right phrase. I feel like I play things pretty safe a lot of the time. There's been times, though, where I think I pop off in this category. I know against Rasmus, I had that one card where, you know, my side of the board was like, not supposed to do Deep Serena, and everyone in the chat was like freaking out, like saying like, oh, I don't understand how Jeff's going to win this. Like, this isn't going to work. And I feel like I crushed that match. Like, that was one of my best routing master classes, if you want to use a phrase that the creator of this video likes to use, that I've had. So I have my moments, but I think generally speaking, I'm pretty safe, and that leads me to being like Ramato in semifinals was able to kind of predict me a little too much because of stuff like that. Because in general, I'm a kind of risk-averse person, so sometimes that applies to bingo, but there we are. Number 5, I put Dex, but honestly, I don't know if I have any good reason. It's just, again, it's honestly more so just there's 5 players here. One of them has to be like the lowest ranked out of all of us, and I just feel like that kind of reflects in moments like this. You know, I don't know if there's anything that would say Dex objectively like is worse than all of us. Like I don't have any like moments to remember for that, but there we go. You know,
game plan / card analysis. For number 1, I put Larvy with all the cards that he vetted for the last tournament. I'd say there's some ones that I thought were insanely crazy until he explained them, and I was like, oh, you know, I guess he's just smarter than all of us combined. Yeah, whenever I played him, he just has really solid plans. He has macro plans and micro plans, right? He knows how to play the player, and he knows how to play the player not just by their style, but how to incorporate that into a bingo card. Next would be Ramato. Again, you can't be the GOAT without being really good at this. Having a plan, sticking to it. A lot of people say that's kind of what he's best at, just, you know, executing cards well. Next would be Jeff. Jeff has a lot of good card analysis. He's done tons of card analysis. He's always got good plans going to matches. It's very rare that you see Jeff go into a match with a bad plan. Next would be JJ. I really had a hard time ranking him on this one and with the creativity one because I feel like they go hand in hand a little bit. I decided to rank him low on this one because while he has kind of come up with his own creative routes, it becomes a little bit with kind of what he does. Usually they are really solid still, though, right? I mean, he's super fast. It works for him, but it becomes a little predictable, I suppose. Last but not least, that would be me on this one. Obviously, I'm like, according to some players, a top 10 player. The rest of these are arguably top 5 players. So, you know, what you gonna do?
Next up, we have best game plan or card analysis, whichever way you want to think about that. I think here the top 2 is pretty contested for the by the seed pickers in the most recent tourney. So yeah, I think that's just kind of expected that if you are into that job, you are probably gonna do pretty decently in this category too. And in first place, I have Larvitar. I think he just consistently shows that he has good finger routing, and yeah, even when I guess nowadays mostly on the theory side since he doesn't really play, but even when he did play, he did usually have some good game plans, but yeah, the gameplay just didn't always allow those to come through, but they did still exist. So yeah, just for that, giving him first place. And in second place, I have myself. And I think this is probably the category where I've had the most change recently. Maybe back in the day, I wouldn't have placed myself that high here, and maybe even consider game plans to be one of my weaknesses. And if I did have a off game, it was probably due to just not coming up with a good enough game plan. And yeah, just used to be more of like a instinctual player and not be as into the theory side of things. But I think since coming back, it's kind of like reversed where maybe the instincts aren't as good since haven't been playing as much, but especially the seed picking has made me do a lot of theorizing of cards, and even I think before that, just watching matches, I think we just talked about certain cards a lot, and yeah, I think that just helped me a lot in improving on that department. So now I would say it's maybe more of even a strength when back in the day it used to be a pretty clear weakness. So yeah, that's interesting for me. And in third place we have Jeff. I think he's definitely very consistent when it comes to game plans. Like, not really ever does he have like really bad game plans. So at first it's just like maybe he doesn't like give him the edge he needs to contest some of the speedsters. So like just has like an average route and maybe just doesn't quite cut it. But yeah, definitely respectable game plans, but also maybe not his biggest strength. I would say like the mid game is more so where Jeff shines. So not so much on the game plan for it. Maybe not the most interested in the theorizing outside of game. And in fourth place, I have JJ. I think this is kind of a hard one to place since I feel like it's just not something we have too much too much info on. Like how does he like route cards and all that? Like a lot of the focus is usually on his wacky game plans and all that. So I think some of the bigger fundamentals are maybe sometimes overshadowed by the spectacle. So yeah, I think it's just kind of hard to place him here without really knowing what his thought process is when he's coming up with his game plans. But yeah, I think definitely still respectable fourth place, and yeah, you don't make it that far in tournaments without having good game plans. And last place we have Dex. I think, well, this is another one where I just don't have too much info, and the info I do have is from the most recent tourney where he had some kind of suspect game plans. I think especially the game one against JJ was kind of which puts him here, like in that he raised JJ to piano goals, which I feel like you should be just expecting JJ to be going for the piano goals, especially when it's a piano card. Which he sometimes does that even when it's not a piano card. And like that card did did like did like still give value on the opposite side when he did get a snipe to be on top, but I just think he wasn't really that prepared to get sniped. And yeah, I think that's just kind of shows that he didn't have the greatest game plan, since if you are expecting to win against JJ in a Pianta race, and I think that's just the issue in the game plan. That's not happening, and his backup plan was not the best. So yeah, that does give him last place, but yeah, don't have the most information on him, so would be an unfair placement.
So for analysis, I'll just like say my bottom 3 and my top 2 instead. My top 2 are Jeff and Ramato, and my bottom 3 are JJ, me, and Dex. The thing that separates us is that I think Dex, JJ, and I are more volatile in terms of routing, which means our floor is lower than that of Jeff and Ramato. And having good ideas and like good game plans is like one of the key things in that sense, where like if you're not good at routing, then like you have like a little bit of an issue, right? Or like if you have like bad ideas and you do them, then it's like, how can you rank high in like card analysis? And for the specific ranking, I have Dex as last, because like for his games, can't think of like a lot of games where I'm watching him play and are like, this is a well thought of game plan. So like his ceiling is also not particularly high for me, but like this feels rude to say. I'm sorry, Dex. As fourth and third are really difficult. I initially put myself as third and JJ as fourth, but like I'm thinking about it again, and it's tough. Maybe like if I want to appear like really humble, I can put myself fourth, because I was active in a time where like the general level of play of routing was worse. So I detract points from that like my game plan were good at a time where like for it to be considered a good game plan is significantly easier, in my opinion at least. And as I said, like both of us are like kind of have volatile ideas. JJ's ideas are definitely significantly more volatile than mine, but he has them somehow work out more. I think like they're like not good objectively, but if you kind of like combine everything with like, you know, like Composure and like one of the other category, then it can work out a little bit, and can't be all bad in that sense. As my second, I do have Ramato, and Jeff is my first. I think both of their floors are very, very high. The reason why I'm putting Jeff above Ramato is that like I think for some like ideas that Jeff has, I think they're like better than like the best ideas that Ramato has. Ramato has shown like some like good card analysis with his betting, like when we did vetting work together, but doing vetting work and doing like actual game plan like scrims is definitely different. And yeah, like it's significantly different. and so I can't really value that highly. They both have a pretty high floor. I think Romano probably has like the highest floor in that sense, but like I can't think of like game plans where Jeff was like bad or anything.
Best game plan and card analysis. I think I'm gonna put Dex at 5 on this one. It's not really that Dex is like bad at it, it's more everyone is just really good at it, I think. There's a lot of times where in post-game interviews, Dex would be like, I just couldn't figure out the card, and that's like the biggest thing when it comes to card analysis, is figuring out the card, finding the solution to the card. Maybe I could be proven wrong if I play against Dex in the future and he solves a card that I don't, but I think I'm gonna put Dex at 5. Gonna put I'm gonna put Larvae at 4 on this one. Which is crazy because I was talking about his card analysis. It's weird. When Larvae is zoomed out of the game and can look at a card, I think he has like the best in terms of card analysis. Of like if he's not playing and when he's doing the card vetting, he can fully go into the theory of a card, and I think that's something that's really, really impressive that I don't think I can do. So it's very iffy in terms of that sense of I might swap Jeff and Larvae actually. I'm gonna put Jeff at 4, Larvae at 3. So sorry, Tomato, you have to do editing on that. But I'm gonna put Jeff at 4 and Larvae at 3 because I'm convincing myself more and more that Larvae should be further up. But yeah, in terms of card analysis, I haven't seen a lot in terms of Jeff, in terms of his game plans. He's done a few where he'll have pretty solid game plans going into the match, or he'll try and contest something in Invasion. But nothing has really stood out to me compared to Larvae, who's like always doing crazy card analysis and stuff. I'm going to put myself at 2 on this one. That might be a bit greedy. I feel like maybe Larvae and I should be even switched more, but I'm going to put myself at 2 just because in terms of card analysis, I think I do a really good job of finding the option no one can see. Even like a lot of the times, and that was like my biggest thing that gave me such a huge advantage when I was starting as a bingo player, is like there'd be the obvious option of just doing basic setup, but I would just go crazy into the card and try and go for this crazy play, and it would work because of my speed. There'd be cards that's like heavy blue coins and heavy shines, I'd be able to do both. So I think that gives me a huge advantage in terms of like a game plan going into a match. It may seem counterintuitive as well that like if my game plan is just go to Pianta every card, but there's a reason for it because it works. And essentially back then, the people didn't really figure out the meta of how broken Pianta actually was. It's gotten nerfed now, but Pianta was so broken back then. But number 1, gotta put Ramado. He really is a pretty heavy setup player, but he makes it work. He does a really good job of doing setup, and then he knows the exact time of realizing, okay, if my opponent's also setting up, I know how to make my first move. He talked about that a couple times during like the post-game interview and during my match, where he was doing full setup, and if I didn't click my goal and I was about to click it, he was about to pivot towards taking the goal for himself. So I think he has a really good job of like he's mastered the setup on a lot of these cards, and setup is insanely broken in current meta. During this tournament, that's what a lot of the top people were doing, was just doing full setup, and Ramado mastered that. So I'm gonna put Ramado at number 1 for card analysis.
For the third category, I wanted to know who had the best discipline.
Alright, for the second category, discipline. Discipline I associate with like practice and visible practice, and the reason why I have my last place being Dex, I'm sorry, is that he's just like one of the 2 players that I kind of have no good idea. Well, he's the player that I have like the least idea of what he used to do to practice, or like what he practiced. I don't know, like he doesn't do like a ton of scrims. I don't know if he does like particular IL practice, so he's as last by default. As a 4th place, I put myself there, and it's kind of difficult to judge exactly that because I used to do like a lot of scrims with like Romado and others, but I didn't do like, you know, the most like analysis where like I watch back like my scrims and all that and all that. I use them more as like some sort of like experimentation phase, which is, you know, not like the best way to improve. In season 2, I tried like not necessarily what I tried everything I could, but like I tried more than I should have in that sense. Like I gave it like not my all, but like I gave it a lot. So I give myself a little bit of credit there. In season 5, I don't even know if I scrimmed once. Or like I might have scrimmed like one of the like the new formats once each, and that might be it. Maybe like a little bit of practice like before matches, but I don't even remember what I did during that time in terms of practice. 3rd place, I have JJ. I don't really know that much what he has been doing in terms of scrims. I don't know if he does any like meaningful scrims. But like being 2nd in any percent and being like, I don't know, 3rd or 4th in 120 is an indication of like, you can't just be like at that level and have like not efficient and or a lot of practice. So just like for that, he gets like the bonus points. And additionally, I know that he did when the videos are being like when the archive VODs are being uploaded on SMS Bingo League, that channel, that he regularly watches them when they are being uploaded, and that's like not something that, you know, someone who's not dedicated in some way or like disciplined would do. So he gets like a little bit of bonus points, but like his lack of like meaningful scrims is also just like big hindrance points, and he might be like a contender for 4th, but like I put him 3rd instead. For 2nd, I have Romado. This guy has a very similar argument to JJ, except that like in terms of bingo gameplay, I think he's more holistically better. He's very fast, very consistent, pretty consistent. And he like knows, you know, the niche stuff, and you can't, like for JJ as well, you can't just like be good at the game and not have like any efficient or good like a lot of practice. In addition, he also does like a decent amount of scrims. In Dawn of a Dynasty, he didn't do like invasion scrims really that much when he was a player, but before he was even like a player, he did quite a few as well, and that was to prepare Jeff and Pogo. But like also before the bingo leagues, he used to do like a lot of practice, a lot of scrims. In like I think during the season, bingo league season, he like tried to be more of a matchmaker style, wanted like other people to scrim, but he was like, you know, a spectator, watch them, try to give tips, so he was still involved with that. He wanted to have like a competition, I guess, and had like he was a tutor for our number 1 spot, who's Jeff Compass. He has probably more intel on it than I do, but like for Dawn of a Dynasty in particular, he did like a lot of scrims, or like he did regular scrims, but he did also like a lot of IL practice, but like consistency IL practice. And you can't tell me that you are being not like that, you don't deserve 1st place in discipline when you're doing like 15 in Bianco ILs for consistency. Like who the fuck does that? So Jeff definitely gets number 1 just like for that alone almost. But like also as it's scrim wise, like in season 2 I played him like, quite a bit as well. Like we did a little bit, like a good amount of scrims, and I think like throughout he like, even if we talk about like non-lockouts, which he does like very regularly, and he like even like I think analyzes them sometimes, it doesn't help him directly for like 1v1 bingo, but like it definitely helps a little bit of like just thinking about the game in a way of like doing efficiency routing.
And next up, we have best discipline. Here, I place myself first, which I think in terms of recency bias, I think many might be having Jeff above me, and yeah, I think that's pretty fair. But I think if you look at like all time, who has like practiced being at the most and also prepared for the matches, I think I'm definitely been pretty consistently up there between like the row control tourney all the way up to season 2. I think I basically prepared a good amount for each journey, and yeah, especially in the early days, screamed a lot, and also like came up with some blue routes and all that stuff. But yeah, I think what has me putting me first is just the preparation part. I think I do prepare for my matches more than the average player. Like, of course, depending on how important of a match it is. So, and also maybe not as much in the most recent tourney outside of like the playoff bracket, but that was more so just because the Swiss stage didn't matter at all. But yeah, I think just the preparation part, like doing some cards before each match, trying to think of like a game plan and all that. I think just for that, I would put myself first. And in second place, I have Chef. I think he's going in the most recent tourney with his like 4 months long preparation grind. Kind of is like the best individual showcase of having good discipline, where he like just like practiced every single bingo IL and with pretty clear intent. So not just like aiming for the best time, but also caring about consistency, even if it's not the most fun thing. So yeah, I think that's just a pretty clear showing of discipline on his part. And yeah, I mean, probably does apply to like all the tourneys he's been in, but yeah, I think this one is just the best individual showcase of that. But yeah, I think that's just easily second place, and I assume we'll be having a lot of first places for him on this category as well. But yeah, I'm not as sure on his like preparation for before matches. So that's why I have myself above him, just because I know how much I prepare for specific opponents and all that. But yeah, Jeff could be first for sure too. And in third place, I have Larvitar. He definitely screamed a lot back in the day, and also just grinded some ILs a lot. But yeah, I think that's kind of where it ends for him. So solid third place, but nothing insane. So I don't think he's really contesting for the top 2 here. And then in fourth place, I have Dex. I think here I just don't have too much information, and also I'm kind of in an unfortunate spot where I didn't see his peak discipline, since I haven't seen the dead era of bingo. So yeah, I think for the most recent tourney he didn't have that much prep. He did like some screens, but not too much, and yeah, maybe not too much gameplay practice either. So like, yeah, I think that does still earn him fourth place, but yeah, not more than that. And last place we have JJ, and this is probably his weakest category, which is kind of a kind of a feat for him as well, since like even though he doesn't really prepare that much, maybe he grinds like one random 100 coin IL for each tourney. Doesn't really scream that much. Maybe some random scream here or there, but not much. So yeah, I think it's really impressive that even though he doesn't like prepare much, he's still able to place highly. But yeah, for this category, unfortunately, that puts him at last place.
Discipline. I guess that goes in towards like how much prep you do before matches. I'm putting myself at 5 on that one. I don't do scrims. I don't do VOD reviews. I just send it. I feel bad because Jeff and I were planning on scrimming a bunch for this past tournament, and I just didn't. I don't like doing scrims. It makes me overthink bingo way too much, and I feel like I do a lot better just sending it in a match. So I'm putting myself at 5 for discipline. 4, I'm gonna put Dex. A lot of these are gonna probably notice a pattern in terms of Dex. I don't know a lot about Dex as a bingo player, like he and I are friends, but like as a bingo player, I haven't seen a lot of his matches. I don't know how he prepares, but he's been very much on the come up over this like past like 2 years or something. So I feel like he's done a lot of prep, a lot of practice. He's done a lot of help for the community as well, making those bingo tutorials of like all the different strats and how to do them. So I think that helps a bunch. So I'm gonna throw Dex at 4. 3, I think I'm gonna put it to Larvy. Larvy I think does a lot of VOD review. Again, this is just based off a prediction. I don't know what he does offline, but it's just based off of what I'm thinking. Larvy, I feel like is pretty good when it comes to prep and preparing into the matches. He's done a lot of just card analysis in general, which again, I'll go further into card analysis. Larvy, I think, is like one of the best at that. But yeah, I think I'm just gonna throw Larvy at 3, Ramado at 2. Ramado, he was talking about doing his prep against me in terms of wanting to prepare and see like what my play style has been like, because he hasn't played against me in a couple of years, so he watched all my recent matches. So I think Ramado does a really good job of prepping, but I think Jeff just has to take number 1 in terms of best discipline. He is like the non-lockout GOAT. Whenever bingo was during an off season, he would do like a non-lockout a day. That's insane to me. Like he just grinded out non-lockouts, and that just made him so much better as a bingo player. Because I think beforehand, like Jeff was like the Div 2. I don't remember if it was even Div 3. I don't remember. But, like very early on. But he just started doing more and more non-lockouts and just more and more scrims, and he just threw himself into bingo and fell in love with it. And I think that's just proof of discipline, and I think he does a really, really good job of that. He's made himself the insane bingo player that he is today, thanks to how much prep that he puts into matches, and even during the off season, how much prep that he puts into bingo in general. So yeah, Jeff's gonna be number 1 for discipline.
All right. Best discipline. So this one I don't know if it's going to be that controversial, but I'm going to put myself for number 1. The reason I put myself for number 1 is last Invasion tournament, I did a whole thing where I made like a chart and spreadsheet where I grinded like 100 ILs and I measured my consistency, and every bingo tournament, even if we don't factor that, I've always been the person who scrimmed the most, in my opinion. Like season 2 bingo league, I remember I was scrimming all the freaking time. Bingo ILs, I do all the bingo ILs, and even in the off season, I like to do bingo ILs, which isn't always, just for bingo, but it's like just for fun. But it's also, I feel like I stay the most kind of fresh because of that. I feel like I'm always on a practice grind because I feel like that's kind of what I need to do to be successful. Like I think that's kind of like my thing in life, honestly. I'm not to get too deep, but it's like I feel like I always have to put in a little more work than everyone else because I'm just like not naturally good at most things. I feel like for like Ramado, like he puts in work obviously, but it's like it's a little more, he kind of just is able to show up and adapt. Same with like Composure. they're able to kind of just play. Where I've always needed to like go into something with like a firm game plan to be successful, and it works. It does work when I do it. So I would put myself number one for this. I feel like by far, in a way, I do the most like prep for these tournaments, which isn't always worth it because I don't always win. But you know, I do put I am there putting in the time. So number two, I'm going to put Larby. Now, this I'm sure could be debated. I have two. I actually noted that Larby and Ramato are kind of tied for this. But the reason I'm putting Larby second is just I have a memory of him doing more scrims than Ramato ever did. Or not, I shouldn't say ever did, but like at least when I was around. I'm sure like if you get to like the 2019, 2018 era, Ramato did more scrims than Larby, but I wasn't there, so I can't personally say. But yeah, I basically have them tied. Larby, to me though, has always done more scrims. He's like way more of like an ILer. Because naturally, I think when he used to speedrun, he was just an IL guy. So I think that kind of translated to Bingo a little bit, where he would at least practice some stuff. Like I feel like he always knew his routes. In terms of like card analysis, I feel like he's always at least done some. I don't know if it's like a hot take to put Larby number two here, but that's where I'm putting him. Ramato is very close. Like it's basically a tie between him and Ramato, because right now Ramato like has done a lot of Bingo ILs and probably more Bingo ILs to my memory. He doesn't always really scrim though. I remember back in the day, like he's always been able to kind of just show up and be good. It's kind of what I was getting at earlier when I was talking about how much work I put in. At least my memory of Ramato is he's always more so just shown up and he's just good. That's partially because he's always doing stuff like any percent or like ILs regardless, so he's like never that rusty. I think when you're just good at the game for that long, it's a little more second nature to just show up. But that being said, he's still done a lot of Bingo ILs. He still does scrims. He just doesn't do like me and Larby, the amount of scrims Larby and I did back in like season 2, at least to my memory. So number 4, I'll put Dex. Dex I'm putting here just based off of scrim amounts. Dex has always been, this is still actually pretty close with Larby and Ramato, honestly. Dex I don't think has done a lot of Bingo ILs. He's done a few like meme ones, but anyway, Dex has always done scrims, even if it was like back when he was starting out. This season, he was probably like 3rd or 4th most amount of scrims after like me, Ramato, and Pogo. So definitely does scrims. I think he actually got a lot better because he was doing scrims. Like I feel like that really set him up for the Pogo best of 3. So if Dex kept doing scrims, like he did more scrims and more Bingo ILs, I actually think he might have been able to make it to finals, honestly. Because I don't know, it's probably a hot take, but whatever. He could have done better, is my point, or he could have had a little more like convincing victories. So yeah, number 5, I had to put JJ, and that's not personal. I'm a huge JJ fan. I've always watched his like speedruns, but I just don't remember him ever doing scrims or like Bingo ILs. Like he's done a few of each, but very, very small quantities of those. And that's also kind of what I was saying with Ramato. He's just really good at the game. He's very talented. If he put in like half the work like me and Ramato put in, or he would be like he could be very dangerous. So I do think that's kind of what helps us a little bit here.
Discipline. Number 1's got to be JJ. I mean, so this is basically a speed run. Bingo's kind of like a speedrun of the game, right? And JJ's the only one who really likes to speedrun this game besides Bingo. He's out there doing speedruns of any percent 120. The rest of us, nope. I don't think I've ever found evidence of a JJ scrim in my life, but he still puts in a lot of work other places. Number 2, it's got to be Ramato. You got to put in some work to be in the GOAT. I think he came up with half the routes for all these goals, and he's perfected them. Next would be Jeff. Jeff, I know in the last tournament he spent a lot of time grinding. He's a grinder. He's started from the bottom. Now we're here, and he puts in a lot of effort. Next would be me. Similar to Jeff, I started at the bottom. Now I'm here. Lots of effort put into any percent 120, 20 shines. Nothing too crazy. And then I guess last is Larvy. I wasn't around much during Larvy's peak, but when Larvy was around, he was a little bit of a slacker. But I know he's done a ton of scrims in the past, so don't knock him too hard.
I know this was kind of long, but hopefully it was pretty enjoyable. And part 2 hopefully going to be out within the week. Take care, everyone.